this AI for content creation workflow has not only automated 50% of what my team does for my pet care brand, but it's also consolidated all of these different dashboards we've had into the one dashboard in Airtable, which has improved our productivity by at least 2x and has massively reduced errors. So if you're a content creator, agency owner, or entrepreneur who creates content for your brand, like newsletters, podcasts, YouTube videos, blog posts, social media posts, or reels, then this content creation workflow and tutorial that I'm going to share with you today is going to be a complete game changer to help improve your productivity as well. Now, the backstory is this. A few months ago, I realized that we're using about a dozen different AI tools that have been coming out. And what I realized is that a lot of those tools were actually really easy to replicate. I spent a couple of days figuring out that, okay, if I just use some of these no-code tools and automations, I can actually do the same things as what all of these tools are charging me $50 to $100 a month for. And I can get rid of all of that expense, but most importantly, I can make sure it is then customized to how we do business. What used to happen in business is that the really big corporations had access to developers in order to build their own workflows, which is why they could be so productive and produce such large amounts of money for their particular businesses. Up until recently, small businesses didn't have that option. We couldn't afford to do that. But now with these no-code tools and with these AI tools, we can actually build our own workflows that work basically like our own internal software and allow us to produce more content and move 2, 3, 4, even 5 times faster than we ever have in our entire business careers. Also, I look at it like this. This is what I call the content creation hierarchy. So for us as entrepreneurs or content creators, we want to be using our time with the highest and best use all the time. So what is that when it comes to content? In my opinion, it is creating long form content. Why? Because long form content, people need to see that from you before they're going to buy it anyway. But most importantly, what we can do is feed our AI system that I'm about to show you with this long form content. And then we can have a virtual assistant, somebody we're paying $5 to $15 an hour, create really high quality clips, snippets, reels, shorts, social media posts, or through an automated system so that you don't have to spend so much time of your week creating content. You may just need to spend 2, 3, 4 hours creating really high quality long form content like YouTube videos, newsletters, or podcasts, and then let your team do the rest. And that's basically what this entire system is built upon, is feeding really high quality into it and producing hundreds and hundreds of really high quality short form pieces from that particular work. So you might ask, Mitch, why bother with this? There's tons of SaaS tools out there that can make it work for you. And my answer to that is, yeah, if you're fine using dozens of different SaaS tools for all of these small jobs, then absolutely keep doing that. But if you are somebody like me, an ambitious entrepreneur who just wants to drive a ton of efficiency into your business, then a workflow like this could be a really great start. For me personally, my pet care brand, I've gone from working 5 days a week down to 1 day a week. We have 2 virtual assistants now instead of 7 virtual assistants a year ago. And we're producing the same amount of profit as we were an entire year ago with a much bigger team and me working so many more hours. So that's why I'm building these types of systems. And most importantly, is to get my life back and my time back. So if you're anything like me and you want a fully integrated workflow, then this would definitely be for you. Also, this is for you if you're sick of jumping between multiple dashboards in your workflow and you want to consolidate them all into the one dashboard. Also, this will be for you if you want to fully customize the templates to you and your brand. I know for me, using some of these AI tools, they just use basic copywriting templates, which didn't really suit exactly what we do. I had my own templates I wanted to create, and this particular tool allows you to do that. Now, I do want to warn you that this is going to be a long video. I'm going to step you through the entire dashboard, and you do have the option to build it yourself based on what you see, or you can actually buy the template. I've made the Airtable and Make.com templates available so that you can get started much faster. So instead of spending an entire couple of days building your own system, you import mine, and then you can just customize my workflow to suit your own workflows. It would save you at least 1 or 2 days work. So I would encourage you to check that out. And because you're watching this video, I want to give you a 30% off discount. There'll be a code in the description or pop up on this screen right now where you can get 30% off at checkout. If you're ready, let's dive into the dashboard. Now I'm going to give you a quick run through of how the entire dashboard works and how we can create so much content so quickly. And then I'm going to get into the more technical aspects later in the video. So there'll be timestamps in the description where you can skip through to any of the parts that you need to get to, where you can come back to them later, where you could actually review different parts of the process so you can really understand it. So like I said, it's going to be a really long video. Buckle up. Let's dive in now. So as you dive in, you can see that we're using Airtable. It's a really great system. I can't believe I didn't use it from the start of my career, but I'm very happy that we've found it. We're not just using it for content, we're using it for basically all parts of our business now. And the amount of tasks that we've automated is completely unbelievable. So this is the part that makes it very different to a lot of tools out there as well, is we have a brand assets tab. One of the most important parts for using AI is making sure it understands your brand voice and any extra guidelines that you have for your particular brand. So we could have as many brands as we want here. So if you're an agency, you could have all of your brands in here and you don't have to customize prompts for every single one of them. It'll automatically pick up the things in every single workflow, like brand voice guidelines, any excluded words you have, and a writing grade level. So you can add as many brands as you want into here. Next, we have an ideas improver. And this is a new part of this. Initially, it was just for repurposing content, but everybody who purchased in the beta group wanted a workflow that would turn an idea into content as well. So we built this. Basically, you just throw in your idea, choose a template, and then it will shoot out and enhance that idea so that it creates the content for you. Then you can move it into another workflow, or you could create a prompt yourself that will enhance this idea into content that is ready for your particular platform. Then we have tabs for newsletters, YouTube, podcasts, blog posts, virtual summits, general content, like maybe you want to add in a book chapter. We have dozens of social media post templates that allows us to work so quickly. We have a bunch of email prompt templates. We have a bunch of hooks ready for if you want to create scripts for reels. And then, of course, if you want to turn your ideas into anything you want, you can add your own ideas generator here. So I'm going to give you a demo of 2 of the workflows, and then the rest of them work fairly similarly. And then I'm going to dive into the technical aspects so you can see how that works as well. So the first one here is a new idea enhancer. First, we want to choose the brand asset. So like I said, we had all of those brands at the front there. I'm going to choose my brand for this one. And this content that I want to create is for a YouTube video. The prompt here that I want to use is called chain of thought. So the chain of thought prompt is back here. And basically this one was built on a study that I read. And the chain of thought prompt will first generate 100 ideas. Second, it will go through and determine the ideas and which ones are good or not. And then it will build upon that and then produce that in our output. So what I need to do here is I've created a form to actually input this into Airtable. So you can share it with anybody on your team and they're not going to get too confused. So once I've got the idea in here, which is my idea is why content creators should create their own automated workflows, I'm going to hit submit. Then what we'll find is that's now been added here into our particular Airtable account. So here's the idea here. The chain of thought prompt is there. And then we can now choose which model we want to run that through. So I'm going to choose ChatGPT, and then I'm going to hit this button here called Improve Idea. And what this does is send that idea off into make.com and it runs through this automation. This automation has both ChatGPT and Claude, as do most of the automations in this particular workflow and dashboard. And then it references the idea, it references the fact that I want to create a YouTube video, and then it references the prompt template that I added into it. So once that's done, it then sends it back into the dashboard here. So if I go expand on this, I can now see that it's actually created a list of 20 ideas to get started with. So it talks about be your own boss. It talks about quality control, expertise matters. And it adds a little bit of extra context in here to help build that idea out more so that I can use that when I am starting to create the script for this YouTube video. So there are many options that you could do with this. You could add your own idea prompt improver as well and enhance it that way. Once you've got that, then another great one that I use every single day is YouTube production. So as you can see in the dashboard, I've got many different versions in here. And if you have watched my YouTube videos before, this is how I've been creating the titles, description, timestamps, and so forth. So I have another form for that. And let's say that we're going to do this video here, which is how to improve ChatGPT prompt by priming. It's for my brand. Publish date is going to be that date. There's an SEO keyword that I want to focus on. There's no affiliate links for this one, so I just write in none. Then I would add the transcript here. So if you add the YouTube transcript here with all of the timestamps in it, then the timestamps output will be really accurate. If you add other ones with less timestamps in it, it won't be so accurate. Then you just click submit and it gets sent into the dashboard ready to produce all of the other things. So again, we hit the button and then that goes through make.com, produces all of the assets. But that's not all. Why I built these workflows is for what comes next. After we've done the YouTube video assets, I then want to promote that YouTube video. So I then click create promo materials. It references the transcript and writes a promotional email based on the exact template that I want to promote a YouTube video. But that's not all. I then come to here and I say create blog post. It then references the transcript and writes a long form blog post based on that transcript. So now I'm not only producing a YouTube video, but I'm also producing a blog post with basically the click of a button. But that's not all. I can now turn this into social media posts as well. And the best part about these social media prompts is that I have dozens and dozens. In fact, I've got 85 different templates that it will complete. So these templates are built on viral posts, and it references things like topics, like pain points, like steps, and it creates these really high quality social media posts on autopilot. But that's not all. We can also then move into reels. So there are a bunch of different reels and hooks for reels that we can create. Things like what I wish I knew, or how I overcame this challenge and got this outcome, or the secrets for X topic is this. And it'll create these viral reels hooks and 3 key talking points for those reels so that you can create shorter videos to promote your long form videos as well. So like I said, this is a fully integrated system building entire workflows. You don't have to switch between different workflows and copy this particular transcript here and move this bit here. It's all integrated into the one system. So you're literally just clicking a button as each part of it is ready so that you can move faster and produce really high quality content much quicker. So like I mentioned earlier in this video, we do this for all of our content pieces in our business. So from the ideas in the YouTube that I just showed you, but also newsletter promotion, new podcast promotion, new blog posts. For our virtual summits as well, we do a bunch of virtual summits for anything general. So like if you have a book, you could add a chapter and get that to create educational newsletters. You could get that to create educational blog posts. You could get that to create educational social posts. It's really left up to your imagination of what you can turn your really good, high quality, long form content into and really accelerate your content creation. So like I said, we are going to dive into the technical part now. If you are interested in the template so you can work faster, go ahead and purchase that because the rest of the video is going to make so much more sense once you have it. And let's dive in. Now, the fastest way to follow along with this particular tutorial is to buy the template if you do wish. There's no pressure there. If you want to save some time, then absolutely go ahead and do that. And when you do, you'll log in and you'll see a members area just like this. The first place to go to is to join these platforms. So this will list out all of the different platforms that I've used for this particular workflow, and you can join them all up front so you're ready to go. The one that you might not need would be Beehive. If you already have your own email service or you don't want to be producing a newsletter, then you may not need that particular one. Next, you then want to come into the second part of the module called Airtable Base. And in order to get started, all you really need to do is click on this create copy button, and we're going to create a copy of the base. Now, if you're not going to purchase a template, basically what you'll need to do is build out all of these templates that you see across the top here yourself, and then all of the columns within that particular tab. So once you've opened up this version here, all we need to do is click copy base and copy this into your workspace inside Airtable for where you want to save that particular base. In my instance, I need to save this here for this particular client, and then I'll go add base. It shouldn't take too long to add into your Airtable system, and then we can begin editing right now. So as this video continues, I'm going to go through every single tab across the top here, and you'll learn and understand how each workflow works. Remember, the purpose of this particular tutorial is to give you a base or to give you a starting point for your content repurposing and your content creation. And then you can adapt to that workflow to include all of the little pieces of IP and the processes that you've learned and created for your particular business to make that work for you inside of these workflows as well. But this is a really great start. It's going to be all most people need. But if you do want some more advanced stuff customized to you, then definitely go ahead and do that. Now, the first part of this particular workflow is creating your brand assets. So the reason why I put the brand assets as the first part of this workflow is for multiple reasons. If you followed me previously and have been reading my newsletter, which you can sign up for on my website, I have a formula which I call prime, prompt, and proof as the best way to use these AI tools so that we're producing the best quality work, which priming involves providing specific relevant background information so you can ensure that it understands the context and the goals of the task at hand. Then the prompt is what we're all getting used to now, which is the actual prompt that you provide the AI to produce the output. You want to make sure that it's clear and concise, but you also want to make sure that you give it instructions like your brand voice and voice guidelines, and also what writing level it should write at. And then you of course, want to proof it. AI is not going to get it 100%, probably ever. You always want to make sure you're doing a little bit of proofing so that you can ensure that it's sticking to your brand and that it's going to have a nice feel for it. So when it comes to brand assets, we want to be using some of that information in here because every single workflow in each of the other tabs is going to reference our brand voice guidelines and our excluded words and our writing grade level in the actual workflow itself so that it can produce higher quality outputs that are closer to our brand. The other reason is maybe you're an agency or maybe you have a couple of different brands and each brand has different brand voice guidelines. So rather than going into each workflow and editing the prompt for each different brand that you have, we can actually just allow it to reference the brand voice guidelines here and for any particular brand in the one workflow. So I'm just going to add in a couple of my brands. So one coming up will be called Big Moves. And this will be a marketing agency and we'll just put in a random email for now. And we want to put in the brand voice guidelines. So it doesn't have to be a lot and sometimes less is best. So I've put in here professional yet relatable. It should feel as if you're speaking to a friend. We use some contraction writing. So contraction meaning instead of saying you are, we say you're. Instead of saying they are, we say they're. We use short sentences, punchy points, and a little bit of cheek or sarcasm. Sometimes AI doesn't get cheek and humor that well. It's very cringy. I may delete that sentence. We're just going to see how it goes. The writing level that I've found works best, and you could add more writing grade levels if you wanted to here, but I'm finding that 6th grade works best. If you go too far up, it uses these big words that nobody ever says, and it's weird. The number one tip I have in copywriting is that you want your copywriting to feel like a conversation with a friend. So if you don't use big words in your normal conversation every single day, then don't use them in your copywriting either. Then I'm just going to add a second brand so that we can distinguish in each of the future workflows some of the different ways we can structure those workflows. Now, also the excluded words, I'm going to leave this in the template so that you can have these because they're some of the bigger words that I just talked about, which I wouldn't really use that often. But for some reason, AI just loves the same terms over and over again. You can actually tell people who have been using ChatGPT without editing because no matter what industry they're in, it all sounds the same. So I try and use these excluded words to make sure that we are trying to be a little bit different and a little bit more unique. But you might find that different brands have different excluded words as well. For example, in my pet care brand, we hate the use of the word furry friends or furry companions or furry buddies. AI loves that for some reason, but we don't because we've never heard anyone say, meet my furry friend. We make sure we exclude that. So that's all we need to do for in the brand assets, which is business name, business email, brand voice guidelines, excluded words and phrases, and then the writing grade level. Once you've done that and you've added all of those details, we can now move on to the next section. So now in the newsletter section is where we begin adding the different files for make.com. And we want to start by downloading those particular files. So we can come back into the members area and go to the make.com JSON files. And here we've got the download button. So this will link off to a Google Drive, and then you can just download all of those files from that particular Google Drive. And they'll be labeled in a way so you can easily identify where to upload each one. But I'm actually going to go through all of those in this particular training as well. But it'll be the CRS for the content repurposing system. The first word here will be for the tab. So in this case, it's newsletter, and then main assets. So main assets should be written on the button. So we've got create newsletter assets here. So what we actually need to do is, firstly, what we've done in this workflow is we've linked the brand assets table into this workflow so that we can reference any information we want from the brand assets in the workflows. So that's the first point. We've also got production status. So when we create a new record, then it should automatically go to do. And then once we've done with this particular newsletter production, then we can change the status. Then we have newsletter names, scheduled date, assignee, subject line, the preview text, human draft of the newsletter, send lists, and suppression lists. Now, not all of these are going to be needed for the automation itself. And if you're ever in doubt, what we've actually included is in the interfaces tab, different forms that you could use to create new assets for each workflow. So in the newsletter production tab, these are the things that we definitely need for the automation to run. So we need the subject line or the working title. We need the brand asset that it's for. You can see here the schedule date does not have the star, so it's not needed. Same with the send lists and suppression lists. And then we definitely need the newsletter draft. So if you're ever unsure of what we need to run the first automation, just come into the forms here, and the ones with the star will show you which one you need. So what I'm going to do is, as we go, I'm actually going to start filling out some of these. And as we import the automations, we'll run the automation so you can see the output. And then we'll keep moving along this workflow. So to come on this workflow, we've got the social media and we've got the reels and the thumbnail, and that is it for this one. So let's dive in now. So let's say we're creating an email for this brand. It should automatically go to do, but I think it's because the record was already in there. Next, we want to add in the newsletter name. So I've got an example up here of an old one that I'm just going to add in. And that is the name that I came up with. Schedule date, we can just put in next week. Assignee, so we'll just put me there for now. Subject line is probably going to be the same as the newsletter name. Preview text is the text that you see after the subject line. So I typically leave that blank and pull that from the actual output itself. And then now we just need to paste in the newsletter. So this is the first human draft. Once we've done that, then we will just send this to the full list, and then suppression list will be none. So now that we have all of those added in, we've got this pre-AI button, which is basically a status, which I'll show you in the automation. Then we've got our AI model for the newsletter. This is an improvement that I've made just recently, where we now have ChatGPT and Claude available. So right now, at the time of making this video, Claude is actually producing better copywriting for newsletters, social posts, and so forth. But ChatGPT seems to follow instructions better for doing reports, for providing outputs based on certain text and so forth. So you can play around with different models. And by creating this tab here, this user select button, we can actually add any other models that we want to add into this workflow so much easier in future as well. But right now, they're the two main ones that I use. So that's what we've got in there. Okay, so once we're here, we now need to create our make.com workflow. So you'll log into make.com, and then you'll come into scenarios. From here, I would suggest that you create your own folder in make.com to keep things organized. And then we just need to go to create a new scenario. Once you've done that, then you need to come down to the bottom where it says the more here, the 3 dots, and then click import blueprint, then choose file. And then you want to go to where you've downloaded the files from the members area and find the one that matches this particular workflow, which is newsletter assets. Then click open and save, and we should now be able to import the entire workflow. Now, there's a couple of important points here, and there's also a fast way and a slow way to do this. The one challenge that we have with make.com is the Airtable modules. So what it actually is going to try and do on your end is pick up my Airtable, even though my Airtable is not connected. So we need to rebuild parts of the Airtable modules, which is very unfortunate, but there is an easy way to do this. What I find is the easiest way is to just make sure you map this Airtable module first. So you would just come in, you would choose your connection, and then what it's going to try and do is pick up my base. So you want to just make sure you come down to your base and make sure it's mapping to the right one. And then it will also try and pick my table. It will give us 2 newsletter productions at this top there. So there'll be this one up here. And then you want to make sure that you come down, and then I've already mapped this particular module, but you'll find that underneath brand assets, you'll have your newsletter production table. And that's where you'll be able to select the right one. Once you've done that, click OK, and then you can begin on the webhook. Once you've done that, then create your webhook. So here I've already got one created, which I'm going to use, but you would just click add, give it a name, and then create. So I'm just going to use this one. Oops, not that one. I'm going to use this one here. I'm going to copy that address, and I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to click save, because it doesn't auto save. So you want to make sure you're saving it every single time as you go. Then you come across back into Airtable and double click on that column. And here we just want to replace the link that we just saved from that webhook. So you want to add in right up until the question mark. and then just paste it in, and that will now paste in the actual link that you will need to trigger this automation. The other thing that I do is just grab that entire URL and paste that down the bottom here in the description, so that if you ever need to edit it in future, then you can find it very easily. So we'll just click save now. And then what we want to do is give that a run. So you come back into your make.com and click run once, and it should start spinning like this. We come back into our Airtable, click create newsletter. And if it's run successfully, it will produce this record ID in the little bubble up the top there. Once you've completed that webhook there, then now you should be able to reconnect that Airtable module. So you will just drag that across there. And what it should now do is it will then provide the record ID into this section. If we don't have the record ID, then you would just add it from the test of the webhook. And then in the next section, by keeping that module there and mapping it in the first couple of sections, it should keep our variables mapped into the variable section as well, or the variable module. If it hasn't, then you would just need to remap these to be exactly as it is. But I would be fairly confident that if you haven't deleted this Airtable module and you've just remapped it to your particular base and table, then this variable module will be ready to go. Once you have that connected, then I like to give it a test. So I'll unlink the section after setting these variables here. So I'll unlink that and just click save. And then I'll click run once. And then we'll come up into the dashboard and we'll do a test. And then as we can see, it's run through, it's done the test, it's all pulled in all the information that we need, and we can then connect it up to the router and then continue along. And now we're ready to connect up the rest of this. Now, once we connect this, there's a few things that need to happen. First is I would suggest coming into these AI components, and then we'll come back to Airtable. So come into these AI components and you want to choose your connection with the AI API, or if you've not created it yet, then you need to click add and then follow the instructions from Airtable that they've set out. And basically all it is going into the developer accounts for OpenAI, which I've showed you at the start of this section, and also for Anthropic as well. Going in there, getting your API keys, connecting your API to the make.com version by following the instructions, and then we're good to go to then start prompting the system. So once you've added your particular connection, if there's a new model, then I would suggest updating the model to whatever model you suggest, but GPT-4 is the best one right now for OpenAI. Then we should have the content in here ready to go for you. What I actually did by creating this tools module, setting the variables up front, means that you should not need to remap any of these particular prompts. So I actually saved a lot of time compared to the version 1.0 that I had. So there shouldn't be too much more to do besides make that connection and then click OK. You can do that now for all of the AI modules, and we can do that for the Anthropic version as well. So this time I do need to create a connection, which is simply just an API key. So obviously I won't record this, but I come across into Anthropic, go get API keys, and then I create a key. Once I've pasted that key in there, then I click save, and now we're good to go here. So again, choosing the model that you wish, Claude 3 Opus is the best one. And again, it should drop in all of the variables that we need. Claude is a little bit different in terms of how we are prompting it. So I found that just adding it all into the one prompt delivers the same type of result. We could also use a system prompt here like we do in OpenAI, but I find that either works. So there's nothing else to add there. So we just click save, and then we just add in these other versions as well. So in a couple of minutes, we've got everything set up except for the Airtable modules. This is where it gets a little bit more tricky. So we're going to work through this one together. First, let's see how we go with this. So we're going to click this first Airtable module straight after the router. So what's actually happening here is once we get to the router, we've got filters on these particular workflows, which is it's saying when the AI model, which we actually need to remap. So go ahead and remap that, which will be the AI model _ newsletter assets. When that equals Claude, then we want to send the data up this way into this workflow. Or when this AI model, which we'll remap again, equals to ChatGPT, then we'll look then we'll come down this way and run it through ChatGPT. So basically what it is doing is looking at this tab here, and it's finding what module we want to use, and then it's using that particular workflow. So let's say you wanted to add Perplexity, then you could add a new route from that router and copy that same workflow with the Perplexity modules, and then add Perplexity into your particular user selection as well. Then once it's running through there, then we want to create the AI status. So if you just go to edit this module that is in here, it's going to try and pick up my version. So we need to go through and remap the base and everything. So we find the right base that we're working on, and then we have to remap the table as well, because trying to pick up the old table. So that will be the second one down there. Then the record ID is correct. But the one thing that we need to now do, since we've remapped everything, is that we need to come in and change this field here, which is newsletter asset status. And we're just going to change it to AI writing dot. So what that means is when you click this button, it's going to run through the modules, through the router, and then it's going to change this status to AI writing so that you know the AI is working in the background. If you don't do that, then you have no idea if it's running, and you're sitting there for a minute or two wondering what's going on. And you may click it multiple times, which then you're going to get billed multiple times and so forth. So it's just a way to determine that it's running in the background and that you know where it's at. Once we've done that, then we just need to remap these Airtable modules as well. And the most efficient way I've found for this is to keep the top one and delete the other ones. Then we're just going to do the same thing, which is we're going to choose the account, remap the base and the table. And then once we've remapped both of those, then we just need to do a quick little mapping of the Anthropic into the right location. So this one is for the subject lines. So we just need to map in the Anthropic module, which we go to the last subject lines, create a message there, click the content button, and then text. Click OK, and that is saved. So rather than editing each one each time, now that we've done that first one, we can just click clone and then just do a quick edit of where this particular module is getting mapped to. So we just need to come down to where we saw that one, remove that, and then map it to the story framework report, clone. And then this is the improvements tab. So we just need to remap that. And then the thumbnails, but we need to then add one extra thing to the thumbnails. So we'll remap the thumbnail version, and that will be down a little bit further in the dashboard. So we'll just remove these, and then we come down to the thumbnail prompt is where we want to put this one. And then there's one extra thing, which is we need to now close off this status that we set at the start. So the status is the newsletter asset status, and now we write AI complete. So what that does is that once it gets to the final stage, it will then come into this single select and it'll choose AI complete so that we know that the AI is done. It's not running in the background anymore. So once that is done, we can we need to just do the final version for OpenAI and ChatGPT as well. So we come up, we choose our account, we remap the base and the table, and then we add in the OpenAI output, which is choices, message, and then content. So it's a little bit different to Claude. And then we'll click save. And then again, we'll just clone. Change the mapping. Clone. Change the mapping. Clone. Change the mapping there. And then since this is the last one again, then we want to come to our status and we want to go AI complete. Click OK. And that should now allow us to save. Account doesn't exist. Airtable And so we've missed one. Let's just double check. Oh, we didn't change this one, I think. So we just need to change this one. And then AI writing for the status and click OK. Now it should save, and it does. So let's give this one a test as well. So we can go run once, wait for new data, come up, and we'll click create newsletter assets. Now, hopefully what we'll see is that changes to AI writing. And if we come into the dashboard, we can now see, since we chose GPT, it's come down into this workflow. It's now working on the subject lines, and then it should map all of these back into Airtable itself. So we can see now it says AI complete. We've got our outputs into the Airtable system. It gives us some improvements and so forth. Now I'm actually going to update this to be a little bit better, but you can see that as we run it, then it actually gets cut off midway through. So if you ever see a mistake like that, then it probably means we haven't set the right amount of tokens in the output. So we just can come in and have a look at this, and we can see here it should be much higher. So 200 is not enough for us to get a good improvements version. So I'm just going to change that to 1024. Let's do that here for this one as well. 1024, I think, is around 500 to 700 words. Typically, it's hard to tell, but that would be my guess. And there is a better calculator that you can find online, but 1024 seems to be pretty good. And you may want to adapt the prompts a little bit more as well, depending on what you're looking for. So what I'm actually trying to get in the improvement section is, so I'll give an example. For example, mention the sentence you want to improve verbatim, and then provide a new version of that sentence in your improved language. So that should give us a better suggestion output. And let's just copy that into Claude as well. And we'll click OK. So that's the first part of the workflow. Basically, all we need to do now is go through all of the rest and complete that. I'm going to move through the others much faster this time, now that you've got the first one down pat, but it's the same workflow over and over again for each of those. The next option here is then the final human edited version. So you want to make sure that you are putting your final version in here as well. So if you've made any improvements, then do the improved version in here, because what will happen now is these other ones for social media and reels and so forth will actually use this particular tab. So you want to make sure that you fill this one in with any of the improvements. Okay, so let's talk about the social media posts section, because this social media section is going to appear in all of the workflows. I'm only going to explain it this once. And honestly, the social media part is pretty exciting. I am amazed that I figured it out, and I'm amazed that it works so well. So let me give you the entire rundown of how this works. So we've got the same type of workflow here, which is, it will give you the status, choose your model, and then the social trigger. Then we've got a social post created button, and then we can choose our templates from here. So we should actually rearrange this. Let's put the templates back here at the start, and the social post created should go afterwards. So if you need to rearrange this to make it make more sense for you, then please do. But basically, we're looking at the social post templates here. If you go across into social post templates tab at the top, what you'll notice is there are a bunch of templates in here like this. So I'm just going to scroll to some of the ones at the bottom because they're nicer, which is topic secrets, for example. So topic, meaning what this is going to do is it's going to reference the topic of the newsletter. And then it would be like scaling secrets most people don't know. And then it's going to create 3 secrets from that particular newsletter and fill in the blank basically for these templates. Now, how did I figure this out? There's this cool website called typeshare.co. And if you go to the template section, what they've done is they've researched a lot of the biggest creators on Twitter, on X, on Threads, on Facebook, and so forth. And they've taken their viral posts and turned them into a template that anybody can use for any industry. So let's go into this one based on Justin Welsh, for example, and we'll just go to this 1 of 4 challenges. So he would have written a post that looks something like this. And what they've done is they've created these variables that we can use for our own writing. Now, these templates were just used to give actual content creators' ideas what to write, but we can actually use it in our AI workflows. So I've taken all of the best ones and I've put them into this particular template prompt workflow, this template prompt database. And now we can use these in our workflows. So for example, for this particular newsletter, let's say that we want to use that secrets prompt. So we can add that in. And in fact, it's up to you how many you want to add in. I've built this next workflow to run as many of these particular templates as you wish. So you just need to add them in. You can add in 3, 5, you can add in 85 if you wish. It's completely up to you. So what it's going to now do is it's going to send this template into make.com. It's going to reference this final human edited newsletter here. It's going to figure out what the variables are and it's going to complete the template. So let's connect that one up now. So in order to do that, we need to go back into make.com. And by the way, once you've completed your last workflow, you can click on, so that will work anytime in future now. Again, we need to go through the same process, which is import the JSON file, unlink the first version, create your webhook, add your webhook into the dashboard, add the URL into the dashboard, click save, give this a run, then begin to connect up each of these modules. Check that the variables are set. Good news is that all of these are set for this particular one, so it should be much easier to connect everything up. And again, we've got our 2 different filters here for ChatGPT and for Claude. We just need to remap our different Airtable account. Add the status for social media this time. So social trigger asset status, which is AI writing. I'm just going to copy that for this one here as well. Cool. So once it comes through there, then basically what we've got is this formula here, which is we're providing the input status, which is the input brief, which are our formula here, which is the package template prompts in a roll-up fashion. So basically we've concatenated all of the values from those templates so that it feeds it into make.com for each individual post. And then as each individual template comes out the other side, then we add it to the all social posts tab here. So in make.com, we've got the input brief, which is a text roll-up of all of those particular templates. So that whether you choose 1, 5, or 85, it will send each of those in there individually. Then it will run it through the AI module that you want it to. And basically we're saying reference the newsletter draft. Here's our brand voice and guidelines and so forth. Your task is to complete this template. And then we provide the value of that particular iterator here. So that's what it will do in this particular section. Then once it's run through for that template, it'll create a record in our all social post tab. So we just need to remap this section here. So we can just go choose our base, choose our table, which is the all social post table. Then we just need to map all of these things. So we actually need to change this brand asset to map and then make sure we do that. And you want to choose the variables from the tools section here. If it's not there, then we can actually choose the first one. That's fine. But the content name, which is the newsletter name, the output is actually going to be the AI module. And that is all we need for this particular section. And what it's going to do is it's going to send the output into here and it's going to give the ID called content name for brand asset. We could actually map to do in the approve section as well. So let's do that. To do and click OK. And then once that particular workflow is done, we want to then change the final Airtable to AI complete. And like I said before, we can actually clone the version that we've had set up previously to just make things a little bit quicker. So if we just clone that first version, come down to where we said AI writing, and then just change that to AI complete. Click OK. Cool. Then we just need to do the same for Claude. So I'm not going to talk about this one. I'm just going to run through it quickly. Now, the one extra option that I didn't mention for both of these final ones in the Airtable tab is just completing that checkbox as well for the social posts. So you'll see this social post created. Then we just want to change that to yes in these two final Airtable modules. Then we'll just click save, and we should be able to run this now and test it. So we'll just go run once, come back into our dashboard, go back to the newsletter production. So we've got our top secrets template selected. We're just going to run it through ChatGPT, and we're going to click create social posts. So again, it should say it should change to AI writing, but we've actually got an error somehow. So let's just double check this. Oh, we need to map the social post trigger potentially. Let's just see what happened here. So yeah, we just need to map the condition or for the filter. So we need to select the social posts AI model. So AI model _ social posts. Let's see if we can just copy that. And click OK. So now that's been remapped in the filters. Then let's try again. We'll go run once, come back up. We've got our topic secrets, ChatGPT, create social posts. That's been accepted. It says AI writing now. So it's run through the filter, through the iterator, into the AI module. Now it should have created a record up here in our all social posts, which it has. And then we can go expand post and have a look at that. So scaling business secrets, most people don't know. Secret 1, secret 2, secret 3, and then don't tell anyone. So now that one is done and it is ready for us to come in and approve. Now let's say that you had dozens of different social posts for each of your different brand assets. So what we can actually do is create a different view for each of those brands. And we can do this on any of these particular workflows. Same here. So let's say you're building out newsletters for 5 different clients and you have different social posts for those clients as well. We just need to build a new view. So in order to do that, we will come down into grid, and let's just call this one the big moves view, and we'll go create new view. Then up here, you've got different filters that you can actually use in order to create these particular views. So in this case, we want to go brand asset is exactly big moves. So what that will do is that will remove any other brand assets that you have, and it'll only bring up the big moves version. So you can see that it's also added in some of these other columns that I had hidden on the other dashboard. If you need to do that, you can just highlight the ones you want to hide and then go hide all 6 just to keep the dashboard clean. Some of the things in the background are only referenced in the workflows. You can do the same on social posts as well, so that you would have different views for your different brands. Create new view, filter, add condition, brand asset is exactly big moves. And that's just one way that you could create different dashboards. So now that's the social posts section is done. We've got the social posts has been checked off. Now we have an AI thumbnail prompt. Now this is up to you whether you use this or not. The only real API that I could find is for the LeonardoAI API. I tried it for about a month. I didn't particularly think it was better than Midjourney. What I would rather do is create a prompt in here and then take that prompt across to Midjourney just to get that slightly better quality image. However, maybe Leonardo gets better over time and you want to use the API, or maybe at some point Midjourney will have a good API that they will look after that will be useful, or the DALL-E API will become better, which at the moment is not that great. And we'll be able to add it into the workflows. It shouldn't be too far away. Once that does come, and then I'll update everybody in the membership to give them that particular workflow as well. But for now, if you do want to add in the Leonardo version, then we have that as well. So it's just the exact same workflow, which is we come in, we create a new scenario, we import the JSON file, then you would just go through and reconfigure your Airtable as normal and then connect in with LeonardoAI. So the client that I'm building this for actually won't be using Leonardo. So I'm not going to connect this, but if you did, you would just add the API and then you would map the output into the right spots. And to show you how that looks in my particular workflow, you'll come into the Leonardo version, and basically the prompt is the AI thumbnail prompt. So that is what we created in the first workflow. The challenge with Leonardo is that it only allows up to 1,000 characters. So trying to get the right prompt in 1,000 characters is really tough to do when using AI. So you might want to do a little bit of manual editing. Here, it only actually does one image at a time. So if you did want more, then you would just create the image once, save the link somewhere else, and then click the button again and create another image. You come in here and adjust the height and the width. So I just did like your typical YouTube thumbnail height and width in this particular section. And then you can come in and you can play with all of these different presets. You can play with the different models based on what is most suitable for you and your business. So I'd encourage you to dive into the Leonardo platform, play around inside the platform first, figure out the best models for your particular business, and then come and replicate that inside the API afterwards. You will also need to pay for Leonardo premium version, which I think is about $9 per month in order to use the API. So you come in and add all of the settings based on your testing, and then that should be ready to go. Then you would come in and map the output, which is simply in the thumbnail attachment URL. And then you go into Leonardo, generated images, and then the URL here is the output that it gives you. And it sends that URL into Airtable so you can open up that image and save that image. So if you're not integrating it, then I would just give yourself a note on the button itself to show that it's not been integrated. And then you could actually hide those particular columns as well. Then the final version here is the video reels. So this operates very much in the same way as the social posts have, which is we have a bunch of reels templates back here. So I've did a bit of researching on TikTok and so forth, found out some of the best templates that people were using. And it's the same kind of deal as social posts. So we're providing it with some text and then some variables for it to figure out itself. And then we can add in as many of these templates into the workflow as we wish. So let's just add one of these in for now. So let's use the things I wish I knew. And then it's going to be pre-AI. We need to choose the model, which will be ChatGPT. And now let's add in the Reels workflow. So we'll come into the scenarios, go to our folder, create new scenario, and then we're going to find the Reels JSON file. We click save, and it should look very similar to the last version that we did. So first, let's just double check that we've got all the variables. We actually had one variable missing in the last one, which was brand assets. So let's add that one in this particular section as well. And we'll add the brand assets in here. And again, following the same thing. So create your webhook, copy the webhook, come back into our dashboard, change the webhook URL, add the URL into the description in case we need to edit it in future. And then let's give it a test. So run once. There's the record ID there. Set up our first Airtable module. Click OK. Check that our variables are still set up. Check that our filter needs to be remapped, which it does. So here we come down to the AI model for Reels, map that, and then same here. Then remap our Airtable. And this one is the status. So AI writing dot. Just give that a little copy. Now we can't clone this particular one because it will actually get rid of the filter. So either way, it's going to be a little bit of extra work. Cool. Now we've got the iterator. It's got the formula, input brief, new line plus new line. That one's fine. That one's fine. Then we'll map in our AI modules and we should have all of the right stuff here already completed, which it has. Then it's going to create the record in this section here. So we just need to remap this one again. This time it goes to the all reels to do table. And then we map in everything here. So we put our brand asset here, content name, output from the AI, approved is to do, and then click OK. So let's just clone that one, add it in here, delete this other module. And we just need to remap now the AI module for Claude, click OK. And then finally, as always, is ensuring that we close off the workflow by saying the AI status is complete. So let's just copy that one in here. Come down to our AI status, which is AI complete, and change this Reels hooks created to yes. Click OK. And then let's just clone that into this one as well. Then you can use this little airplane here to clean up the work. Oh, sorry. You can use the little auto align to clean up the workflow. And the airplane does this little thing here. And then we'll click save. And we should be able to run this one now. So we've got our template selected. We've got that packaged into a roll up. Going to use the ChatGPT module. Going to create, accepted, saying that the AI is writing. So if we come into here, we can see now that it's moving through this module and it's sent it back into Airtable. So if we come back to our all reels to do, then we've got our output here. So it's used the template, which is things I wish I knew before trying to scale my business. And then it gives 3 talking points for that particular reel that you could use in your particular reel. And that's basically the full first workflow. Now, the rest of them are going to work almost exactly the same. So I'm going to give a quick overview of each of these other workflow tabs. And I'm going to share anything that might be a little bit different about each one, but we're going to work through these other tabs so much quicker. And you should now be able to figure out where each of the things map. Now, the next one we're going to dive into is the blog post production workflow. The reason going into this second is because it is one of the more complicated ones. And then from here, everything else gets a little bit easier. So again, it works in a very similar fashion where we're collecting all the information that we need up front before we run the first automation. Those things being the brand asset, which is interlinked with the first tab that we talked about last time or at the start of this workflow training. The second is a staged category. So we've got blog ideas, the blogs in progress, and the blogs that are done. So anytime you have an idea or you've researched an SEO keyword that you want to add in, then you would come in and put it in here. I've also added a different brand voice guideline section for blog posts because maybe you would have a slightly different tone of voice for the blog post than you do for your brand on social media, for example. So you can actually come in and just change that slightly here if you wish, but do make sure you fill this section in. Next is where we will add the blog title. And within that title, add the keyword, add any secondary keywords, add any internal and external links that you want to be interlinking to. Then if you wish, you can add the publish date and the assignee, and then we are good to go to connect this make.com and trigger this particular workflow, which I'm going to get to in a second. But first, as we go across to the other sections here, we've got another thumbnail module if you wish to add this in for the blog post. Again, we're not actually going to be doing this for this workflow and the client's not going to be using it. So I'm just going to hide these fields. Next is then we also have a promotion tab for our blog post. So if we want to be promoting that, then we've got this section in here. So I'll show you how to connect that. And then finally, we have the social media post. So the social media post is exactly like what we just went through. So I'm not going to be talking about that anymore for this particular video. Great. So let's come back into interfaces and let's go to the new blog post. Let's complete a form so you can see how this works and it will drop in a new record for us. So when it comes to the form, we will fill out the brand asset, assign it to myself. Publish date can be next week. Any additional writing we can put in there. Then we will put in the title of this blog post, which is how to make an old dog happy. Then we'll add in our keywords. So our primary keyword, which is going to be exactly the same. And then our secondary keywords. Now, whenever you're adding anything secondary and there's multiple, then you want to make sure you split it by a comma. That's what the make.com automation is looking for. It's looking for a comma and then it will split each of these keywords. Same as internal links or external links if you add them. You don't have to add them. And I'm finding that AI typically doesn't pick up on internal and external links as you would expect them to. So it's just best to add those in later, but you can try and add them in now and see if you can get it to work. However, it's really hit and miss. However, when new models are updated and it can understand the internal and external links better, I will update the workflow to let all of the members know that there is a new workflow that now allows the internal and external links to work better. Once you've completed all of those things with the star, then you can click submit. And if we come back in and view our data, we should now see a new record. So we can see this new record in the ideas section, and we can change this to in progress. And I'm just going to remove this other record so we don't get confused. So all of this information is now in the table. We can come across and let's set up our blog post trigger. So again, coming back into our make.com scenarios and into the folder, and we want to click create new scenario. From here, we import the scenario for the blog post production section. So blog post, main, JSON, save. Next, as you can see, this is a really in-depth automation. I'm going to run through this as quickly as possible to give you the information if you are building it at home yourself. And I'll show you the fastest way to set this up as well. So again, starting with the same way that we always do, which is creating the webhook. So we'll go add CRS blog posts main, and then click save. Here, we then copy the address to the clipboard, come across back into our Airtable, double click on the column and add our URL into that section, and then grab the URL of the automation and add that into the description there. So now we have that good to go. Let's give it a run once and then create blog posts to trigger the automation. And now we have the record ID. So to get a record is the first option here. We'll choose the connection, we'll choose the base, map it to the one that we're working on, and then click OK. From here, we'll check the variables. So we really want to make sure these are all correct, which is the blog title, primary keyword, secondary keywords, which you can see in this formula here is that it's saying if the secondary keywords contains the comma, then split the secondary keywords by the comma. It's basically what it's saying. Same for the internal links, same for the external links. We've got our brand voice, excluded words, and writing level. Clicking OK. Now let's check our filters to make sure it's mapping in the right directions. So we just need to choose our AI models _ blog posts, and then we can copy that, highlight and copy that for the other side, and click OK. So we've got our filters set up. ChatGPT will go up, Claude will go down. So again, it's saying whatever one we've selected here will be the model that gets used in this workflow. Next, connect it in your AI module. Hopefully it will all map as needed, and it has. So basically we've given the system some context of the brand voice, excluded words, and writing level. We're saying, hey, we're about to give you a JSON brief. By providing the AI with a JSON brief, it actually helped the AI model understand the different parts of writing this blog post a whole lot better and move through the automation in a much more seamless way with less mistakes and errors. Then we provide it with the JSON brief. So if you don't know how to write JSON, you could actually just ask ChatGPT in the actual browser dashboard to write it for you with your particular variables if you haven't purchased a template. And it's actually quite easy for ChatGPT to do, and it'll add all of those variables in there for you. However, if you have the template, then it should be in there ready to go for you. So that one's all fine. Click OK. Next, we now want to map this particular outline of the blog post. So this is the outline of the blog post, which is the AI blog outline here. And that would be the choices, message, content. Click OK. Now, what we're doing in this workflow is that it's triggering the webhook, getting the record, creating the variables. Then it's going to choose a model to run through. Then we're going to do this in stages. So the first stage is we're going to create an outline. We're going to send that outline back into Airtable. Then we're going to turn that outline into an input brief. Then we're going to send that through an iterator to work through each different section of that blog post from the outline. So as we go through this automation or this workflow, I'll share a little bit more about that. So also, let's not forget to add in our first Airtable module here and do our AI writing. So we've got that in there. Then we go to our AI blog writing progress and we go AI writing dot. Click OK. Do the same for the second module down here. Cool. So once that's done, then we just check our input brief, which is the AI output as well. So that is added. And then now it gets put through the iterator. So the formula here is split the input brief by a new line. And then there is a filter to say that the new line is actually split by at least, or it starts with 2 of these particular hashtags. Now, the reason why is because in the actual prompt, we asked it to provide an output in ATX format, which ATX format is basically using hashtags for H1, H2, H3. And we want to be providing anything from H2 or H3 through the iterator one at a time. So then that comes into our next ChatGPT version. And here we've got a little bit of a system prompt to give it some more information on how to create a more engaging post. And you can come in and edit this if you do wish. Then what we're saying is your task is to use the following outline and create an article. Now, we're going to feed the entire outline to it as inside each prompt, but we only want it to work on the arrow section. So the arrow section is actually being sent in via this section input variable. So we're saying grab the input brief and by the values, and then only work on that particular value with the arrow next to it. So basically what it's doing is it's putting an arrow at each of the different sections of the outline that start with at least 2 of those hashtags. Then it's going to write each section based on our instructions here. And then it's going to set that variable or that output as section text. And then what we're saying here is the section text. So we've got a filter set up saying floor random times 4 plus 1 is basically that's a formula that says for 25% of the section text output, so 25% of the time, send that section up into here. And then here we're saying rewrite that section to include more bullet points and subheadings so we can split up the text. Because what will happen if we don't do this, is that it will just write a lot of text for each of those different outlines that we created here in step number 1, and it just looks too convoluted. Whereas if we break it up with bullet points and some different subheadings and so forth, then it's so much easier for the eye to read. Then once that's created, it also turns that into a section text. Down here, we're grabbing the section text as it runs through the iterator. Then we aggregate it. So we're turning all of those section texts into a single file again. And then we're sending that output back into Airtable. In order to do that, we just need to set up our Airtable version. So once we've mapped those particular sections, then we map the section text into the AI blog final. So we just grab this aggregator text and we add that in and click OK. And that will then create you the outline. But there's actually more things that we need to do in order to create a really high quality blog post. And they are to make sure that everything is factually correct. So that's what I do in this next step, which is I ask it to, your award-winning researcher who must substantiate the main claims of an article with hard data from verified sources. So then I'm asking it to review the AI blog final that we just sent back into Airtable. Now provide 5 claims that are written about this article and the types of questions we must look for in order to find those and substantiate those claims. For example, and I'll give an example of what I would like. What it's going to do is it's going to read the article, it's going to find all of the claims that it has written, and then it's going to give us questions that we need to ask in order to substantiate and find the data to substantiate those claims. I also ask it to do a thumbnail prompt, but if you're not doing thumbnails, then you could easily just delete this from the actual workflow. So in the final module here, we want to make sure we map the 2 AI modules that are at the end here, plus then do an AI complete. So in order to do that, we can put in our AI complete here, and then we come down to our facts and prompts lookup. So we can go find facts, which is here, and map that one in. And then we want to also map in the thumbnail prompt if you are including that in your workflow as well. So add both of those there and then click save. Now that's going to be exactly the same for the Claude version. So you can just go copy modules and then paste that into your workflow and then connect it up down the bottom. And then you just need to do a quick remap of the AI blog final. Click OK. And then same for the next one. click OK, and then this should now map directly in, but we'll do a double check. And we've got it here, so it maps directly in. So give it a save, and now let's test it. So we can click run once, come back across here, choose the model that we want to test with, which is ChatGPT in this particular case. And then we're going to go create blog post. Says accepted. It says the AI is writing. Come back across. We can see now it's running through the outline. It's added the outline into our make.com. So you can see it's split up each of these sections by the 2 hashtags, which is the ATX format for H2. Now it should be running through each of those sections individually, which you can see it has run through 2 so far, 3 here now. So it's on the 3rd operation. It should soon send a section text up to here as well. And eventually it's going to come through and run through the rest of this workflow. So now we're getting those 1 in 4 going up to this section text. And now we can see that there's been 9 iterations through. 3 times it's gone up to the top here, the different section text, and then it's sent it back into the AI blog final. So here, then you'll come through and this would be the final version to edit. So sometimes it adds in section 4 and stuff, which you would delete. And we have tried adding that into the prompt, but it doesn't always follow it exactly. And it also then has a few different internal link suggestions. So you would then potentially create blog posts that would interlink like this, and external links here as well if you do wish. Now, also it has then created our facts lookup. And basically what I do at this point is I go across into Perplexity. Now, there is a make.com integration for Perplexity, but the challenge is that it's 37, euro or pounds. I don't know which one, my apologies. If you want to pay that to get access to the Perplexity API, so if you're doing blog posts at scale, then maybe you would want to implement that workflow. But what I find is just easier enough to do is to just come across, grab that question and open up the Perplexity dashboard and then just paste it in here. So you would go through and you would look at each of those questions individually and see what comes up. Now, the reason why we do this is because it gives sources. And this is where you would want to use some of these sources to substantiate the claims that you're actually making in the article. So the idea now is to grab the AI blog final and then put this into your human edited final. So we would go expand post, we would copy it in here. And then you would use the information that you're getting from Perplexity. And by the way, if it doesn't copy correctly, like with the different headings and stuff, it means that the enable rich text formatting may be turned off, which actually it's not. So that's quite weird, but it should copy across exactly how you want it to. Maybe if we just open it up from there and then we try again. All right, that copied across much better. So now you can use Perplexity to substantiate your claims and then add these claims into the article as you go through and edit it. And that will then create a really high quality blog post. So that's the idea of how all of that will work. You can paste your Perplexity responses in here. So you could just grab all of this and then come and paste this into here. And then you'll have that referenced inside the base as well. The thumbnail prompt is here. Again, if you're using the thumbnail workflow, then you would connect that up next. So that's basically how the blog post section will work. Now, the reason why I did this now is because we also use this in the YouTube production and also the podcast production with a slight little tweak. I'll show you the slight little tweak in each of those workflows, but I'm not going to go into any more real depth with each of the other workflows that include an automation that works just like this. This is the one to understand. Once you understand this, then you can make a few little tweaks depending on your workflow. The final thing to do now for this particular section will be to do the email prompt, and then you would also do the social posts automation as well. So the social posts I'm not actually going to do, but it's the same process. You create your new scenario, you import your JSON files, you remap everything, you then set it live and then test it, and it's good to go. Now the email prompts, because this is the first time that we're doing it, then I will go through this particular one and we'll add in the blog post promotion as our email prompt. and then we'll create our email workflow. In order to do that, then again, we're coming back into our make.com and we're creating a new scenario. And then we go to more, import JSON file. Then we're looking for blog post email, blog post promo email JSON, save, and then import. Again, works very similar to how the social posts work, which is we pull in the record, we set the variables depending on ChatGPT or Claude. It goes through one of these workflows. It then creates the promo email, sends it back into Airtable, and then creates headlines for that promo email and sends that back into Airtable as well. So here's how I would set that up. Let's start with the webhook as always. Click save, copy the address to the clipboard, click OK, come back into our tab, change the URL, put the URL in the description and click save. Then we need to give this one a run once. I'm actually just going to change that button to create promo email because it could be ChatGPT or Claude. And I'm actually going to change this to ChatGPT because that's the best one to test on currently for this account. So we've got our record ID. Now we can map this first Airtable modules, blog post production, and click OK. Check the variables are set. So title, primary keyword, secondary keywords, split by the comma, internal links, split by the comma, external links, split by the comma, brand voice, excluded words, writing level, human edited article. Then check the filters. So change the AI model to promo emails, AI models, email promo. And we can just copy that for the next one. And click OK. Next, let's update a record so that we know that the AI is working. Then we come down to our email writing status and change the AI writing dot. Just going to give that a copy for the other one. And then for the other one, we'll add that in there as well, promo email AI status, and click OK. So now let's map in our OpenAI modules, check that all of the variables are working correctly. And then our packaged template roll up is added in here. So this could have been should have been a variable, but if it was missed for any reason and you need to add it in, then you want to make sure you're using the roll up. So again, the roll up is the version that has been concatenated, and it also includes the hashtags needed at the start here. So basically what it's doing is it's grabbing that one template from that variable there for the blog post production, or the blog post promo email. Then it's going through this prompt, and then it's feeding that particular email into the all promo emails section. So let's map that out. So the all promo emails, we want to map the brand asset. We also then want to map the category. So if we come in and have a look at this and we look at categories, it would be blog posts. So we just add blog posts there. We don't have the email subject lines yet. That's going to be done in the next part. Then we just add in the output here in the AI final email content output. And then in the approved, we can put to do. And that is all we need right now. Then we click OK. Now we want it to create headlines based on that particular output. So here we have the output from the promo email in this particular prompt. Then what we actually need to do is update the record that we just created in the previous step. So here we just need to find the record ID from that particular input. So we go to our all promo emails in this particular section. And then we want to add in the record ID that is created in this create a record section. So you'll find the record ID in here, which is a hidden field, and you add that in there. So basically what that is doing is that it is updating the record with what we're about to add now is the headlines into that record again. So rather than creating a new record, it's finding the old ones to match the AI output with the new subject lines that are going to be mapped in now. So we just come into our email subject lines here, and then we put in the headlines section into that space and click OK. Then, as always, we want to finalize our workflow. And basically all of this one is saying is that the AI is complete. So this one, we're going back to the blog post production table, ensuring the record ID gets added. Then we come down to our promo emails section. And then in the promo email AI status, we go AI complete. And here we can change promo email created to yes and click OK. So that's going to be the exact same as this bottom one as well. So I'm just going to copy that immediately to the bottom one. Just double check that it has all of the right things. AI complete, promo email created. Very good. So that's basically that workflow. We would now just go ahead and do this for Claude as well. Once we've done that for Claude, we can click save and go run once and give it a test. So again, coming back to our blog post production, we've got our blog post promotional email here, which this is the template. So all of these promo email templates are up the top here, and you can add as many as you wish into here based on the way that you do it. You can edit these versions in here, whatever you like. So we've got that selected. We're saying use ChatGPT. Then we go create promo email. Here it says it's AI writing. It's running through the workflow now. It's creating the promo email. So it should have now sent that promo email into the all promo emails tab, which it has. So this is the email here, short and concise. Then what it should be doing now is creating these email subject lines and sending these subject lines into here for us to choose from as well. So here you can come through, choose your subject line. Maybe you can find different parts of this to then use in your email preview text as well, and you can insert that into here. Once you've done that, then you can create your send date, your list tag inclusion. So it might be full list, no exclusions. And then once it's approved, you could have a notification that if you wanted to set that up to trigger somebody in your team to then go ahead and schedule it. So there's endless possibilities after these social posts and these emails are getting sent into the dashboard to then trigger automations to different people in your team to then schedule them once they've been approved. So again, the final part of this is now to do the create social posts, which is exactly the same as the create social posts that I did earlier in this tutorial, but with the difference being you're just mapping it to the blog post production tab. In this workflow, we're now diving into YouTube production, and again, largely works in the same way. We've got our brand asset connected. We've got our status for to do, in progress, and done. Assignee, the working title for the video. So whenever you're uploading a video, give it a working title first, and then you'll also get in the first automation some other titles that you can choose from, and maybe you'll want to switch out. Also, if you are focusing on SEO for your YouTube, then you can put in your SEO keyword based on the research that you've done. I've added a tab here for affiliate links. What I was finding is sometimes during the videos, I would refer to an affiliate link, or I would refer to another video on my YouTube channel. So I wanted a place to just store that information so I could add it into the final description when I'm doing the editing. Then we have the publish date, which you can add in, and then the YouTube transcript. Then we run that through the automation, the first automation, which then creates a variation of YouTube titles that we could choose from, a YouTube description, the timestamps for adding it onto YouTube itself, and then different titles for the thumbnail as well. Then the idea is to do your final human edit so that when you upload it to YouTube, you just copy all of the information from that section and upload it onto your channel. Next, just like in the previous section of the blog post production, we have a promo section. So if you are promoting your YouTube video to your email list, then there'll be a version to create an email here. This one I'm not going to show because it's the exact same process as what I just showed in the previous section. Here we also have the blog post AI writing, so we can turn our full YouTube video into a full blog post. I will show this in a short snippet of how it is slightly different to the previous version, so that if you do want to turn your YouTube videos into a blog post and get more longevity for that piece of the content. And that's the idea of this entire workflow, is how can we create high quality content at the top of the content hierarchy that I talk about, which is your newsletters, your YouTube videos, your podcasts. How can we focus our time at the top of that period and then use that main input created by us to then do a whole host of other different posts, whether that is blog posts that we can add to our website or dozens of different social media posts and reels and so forth. That's the idea of creating these workflows, is adapting them so that it can all fully be automated from the top of the content hierarchy. Then we have, again, our outline, our final blog output, and then you would come in and you would do your human edits. So if you did want to do some more in-depth research, like with Perplexity and stuff, then you could also add that into this particular section if you wish. But the idea is, because you're already creating a YouTube video, then hopefully you've actually done that research for your YouTube video and it will just pull the stats directly from there. Then again, we've got our social posts. You would connect that in yourself. I'm not going to go through that in this section, but it's the exact same process as what we've been through before. And then also for the reels. So if you wanted to create different reels for TikTok, for example, and then push people to YouTube for the longer version, then that's how this workflow would work. So let's begin with the things that we need. So if we come into our interface and we go to our new YouTube production form, and let's publish that form, and we'll complete the input from here. So I've got an old video here that I'm just going to add in, which is how to improve ChatGPT prompts by priming. We're just going to put this under the big moves again. We'll select me, put this for next week, and the SEO is improve ChatGPT prompts. So we'll add that in there, and no affiliate links or anything for this one. And then the full YouTube transcript here. So there's a couple of options that you can do here. Sometimes if I have had the video up on YouTube already, I will grab the transcript from the YouTube video itself. It does take a little while for the transcript to process, but you'll find it in your description. And then down the bottom here, go show transcript. And then you would just copy this whole thing, and that will then allow you to use that in the actual Airtable workflow. So if we come back into our workflow, we can just paste that in here. And because it's got these very small timestamps, then this is going to be much more accurate for when we generate the timestamps from the actual workflow. The other option is we also edit in Descript, which does an automatic transcription. However, it will only give us the different minutes. So like it'll be minute 0, minute 1, minute 2, minute 3, minute 4, and so forth in the actual transcript itself, which means the timestamps in the next workflow that I'm about to show you is not going to work as well. So it's going to be less accurate for each of the timestamps. So it's up to you what you choose there. And for this instance, we're going to use the YouTube version, and then we're going to click submit, and we're going to view that data now. So that has been added into a dashboard. I'm just going to delete this top one so that we can not get confused. And it's got all the things in here we need now across the top in order to make this first YouTube workflow operate. So again, we're coming back into our make.com to begin this scenario now. So we'll create this scenario, and this time we're going to find the YouTube main assets JSON file to import. Click save, and this one is now imported. So you can see now we've got both ChatGPT and Claude versions, and we're just going to work through this in the exact same way that we have for each workflow, which is creating the webhook first. So CRS YouTube main assets, click save. Copy the address to the clipboard, click OK, come back into our Airtable, change the here so that it works. We'll add the make URL in the description so we can reference it later, and then click save. Back here, if we run that once, check that it's working, it's been accepted, come back, and we've got that there to be accepted now. Now let's set up our first Airtable. So we're going to choose our connection, rebase and our table, and then click OK. Check that the variables are still connected. So the YouTube title, transcript, brand voice, excluded words, writing grade, SEO keywords, all good to go. Check that our filters are mapped, which they're not. So we just need to fix that one up. So AI model YouTube assets, let's just highlight that and copy it for the other one. Check that down here, and our filters are set up. So when Claude is selected, it will just run Claude. Next, let's set up our Airtable again to map to the right base and table and create the AI writing status. AI writing, copy that for the other one. Okay, So we've got all of those connected now, and we should be able to start mapping our AI modules. So let's connect to the ChatGPT first. In this instance, we're using GPT Turbo because we need a larger context window to feed the full transcript in. So you may need to check the model that you're using. GPT-4 won't have enough a context window. So you need to use Turbo, or if there's a better model out when you're watching this, then change it to the better model. Here, we're now giving it the system prompt, which is reference the draft and the title, the transcript, and the brand voice. And then we're asking it to write 10 variations of titles, 5 of them being attention capturing ones or clickbaity types, and 5 being SEO based. Then we need to map that into Airtable. So we need to remap this again, and this will go in the AI YouTube titles. And then we just want to add in the output from that particular module. So what we'll actually do is we'll clone Airtable for the rest of these. So we'll just delete that for now. And let's just go ahead and fix up each of these. So again, same type of input or the system prompt. And then we're asking it now in this section is to write a YouTube description based on those particular instructions. Here, we can now just clone that Airtable base module and then just change the output to go to the YouTube description variable section and click OK. Next is the chapters. So again, this is going to get more accurate because we've fed in the YouTube transcripts into this section. And then we're asking it to do it in this particular way so that it's ready for the YouTube platform. Again, we'll clone this Airtable module, and then we'll just change the output location from the YouTube description to the AI timestamps output, and we'll add in the content there. Then we will do the YouTube channels. So this is saying reference that, all of that same information, and then it's trained on the diary of a CEO. So they do a lot of work to test their thumbnails. So I took the top 7 or 8 of those videos, trained it on that information, and then told it must be 18 characters or less, no more than 5 words, and gave it some examples. So now it will feed that. It'll use YouTube transcripts and then create some titles for that particular thumbnail. So again, we just need to map that output into the AI thumbnail titles section. And then as always, we need to do a final wrap up here of the YouTube AI asset status and write AI complete. And we'll click OK. So that's basically the AI module section. We now need to just repeat the exact same process for Claude. So we've added all of those in and then changing our AI status to AI. So that is now done. If we click save, and we should be able to run this once and then give this a version. So we'll go ChatGPT, create YouTube assets, been accepted, come back into here. It's gone up to the ChatGPT workflow. It's running through the YouTube titles now. It's sent that back into, so let's open up this particular record here, expand the product. So we've got our attention capturing titles here, and then we've got our SEO focused titles here. And what I actually find is that sometimes I'll mix and match some of these titles in order to find the right ones. Or if you're doing more SEO stuff, honestly, the title that you come up with for the first time is maybe the best one. Now, there's a couple of things here. I actually find Claude writes way better descriptions. So that is my preference at this time. But what I find for ChatGPT is usually like the first 1 or 2 sentences for the description is good, and then I delete the rest. It kind of waffles on a little bit. And then you have like your upload defaults at the bottom as well. Like I said here, so the timestamps are much more accurate in this particular one. I would say these are going to be pretty good. What will happen if you don't use the YouTube version is it will just give you 1, 2, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and so forth, and it won't be so accurate. And then these AI thumbnail titles are usually pretty good. They usually follow the exact format that we want. So what you would do at this stage is you would choose your title and you would choose your description that you want to add in. So let's just, I'm not even going to look at it. Let's just say this is what you want to add in. So you'd add those 2 things in there. And then you might have say, yeah, these hashtags are good. You would add all of that in there. And then this would be your final version that you would upload into YouTube once you upload your video. So we would add that there. Next, then we have the YouTube promo video. So this particular workflow is created in a way where the prompt itself is written into the actual AI workflow rather than having your selection like we had in the previous one, where you could select your prompt from in this particular tab. It's actually inbuilt. And the reason why I did that is because if we're promoting a YouTube video, it's the same structure all the time. So it's up to you whether you add in, you change it to make it more like the other version, or if you just use our version. If you use the version that I've got written in there, then it's the same process of just importing the make.com workflow, mapping everything. You'll see what the template is that's written in there, and then you can adapt it if you wish, or you can use it as is, and then map the output into your all promo emails section. So I'm not going to go through that because that's quite easy. The one that I will go through is the create blog post section, because there is a slight nuance to the make.com scenario compared to the blog post. So let's get started on this one now. So we'll go into make, create a new scenario, and then we'll import the JSON file. And then this time we want to go YouTube and then blog post article, and then click save. So again, we've got this really long in-depth version that looks pretty much identical to the last version, except the input will be slightly different. So I'm going to work up to the outline because this is where it will change just a little bit, but everything else beyond that point will be exactly the same. So if you ever get stuck, you can just go back and refer to the blog post section earlier in this particular tutorial. So we're going to start this again with our webhook, copy the address, add the address into here, add our URL into the description, and then click save. Here, we'll just run that once to pull in that record ID, create the blog post. It's been accepted, so we should now have the record ID. Here, we'll connect up the Airtable module and we'll remap this to our existing base and our existing table, and then we'll click OK. Here, we'll make sure that all of these have been mapped accurately, which they have, and we'll click OK. Next, we'll make sure the filters have been mapped accurately, and it looks like they have, which is great. So we'll click OK. We'll now map the next Airtable into our current base and table, and we'll change our blog post YouTube status. So blog post AI writing status to AI writing. Copy that for the other version. Now in the outline section is where things are slightly different. So basically we're giving it context of this is the brand voice and the excluded words. Then we're giving it the JSON file. But here we're actually giving it the title, the priming transcript, so the transcript from YouTube, and then the primary keyword. So whereas before we're giving it the title, the SEO keywords, and then the other links. So that is really the only big change in this section is within that JSON file, which means it's going to reference the YouTube video. It's going to create a blog post with the title that you have created for that particular YouTube video. And then it's going to build the outline based on the YouTube video itself rather than a keyword. So that's the big change in this particular workflow. From this point on, everything else works the same. Then the final things to do in this workflow are to do your social posts. Again, this works exactly the same, where you would map all of your social posts into your all social posts tab up the top here as the output. And then the same again for Reels. So if you get stuck on those, you can go back to the previous part of this video where we talked about the social posts and the Reels and just follow it in the same sort of fashion, but just changing the variables. So instead of saying it was for the newsletter section or the blog post section, we would say that it was for the YouTube workflow. And now we make our way to the podcast production workflow. So again, starting off, we've got our formula at the start, which is going to be episode number for the podcast name with guest name for the brand asset. So as we fill that out, you'll see how that gets populated in the podcast ID section. Next, we then want to add in our brand asset here. We've got our podcast name, the stage it's at, so to do, in progress, and done. Host name, guest name, episode number, the published date, the signee, and then the transcript of the podcast goes here. Once we have that, then the automation will do the summary outline. So it will give us an introduction, 3 key points of the podcast, and then a conclusion. It'll give us some timestamps, and these timestamps are built for the Spotify platform, but they will also work on the YouTube platform as well. And then you've got your human edited version here. So the idea would be to combine both of these outputs here into your own human edited version that is then ready to be uploaded into your podcast show notes. Next, we then have the YouTube assets automation, which is basically the same as the YouTube production one, the main assets in that particular workflow. However, it's built into this workflow to reference the podcast transcript. And the reason is because most of the time you are now not only doing a podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or these other platforms, but we're also putting it on YouTube to make sure that we get as much exposure as possible. So we still need to do the YouTube workflow for our podcasts as well. Next, we then have a promo email setup that is written into the workflow itself. It's not a selection template. So I'll show you how that works. And then finally, we have our social posts, which works largely the same as the other workflows. However, the one difference here is we actually have an AI guest social media output as well, where the AI will actually provide a customized social media post for the podcast guests so that when the episode goes live, they can share it on their particular platform as well. And you can send them that swipe copy. I'll show you how that particular part of the social media post works. I'm not going to go into the entire social media workflow because we've already talked about that. Again, we've got our interface here, which is our form for our podcast. And then I'm just going to hit publish on that, and we'll complete the form for our particular podcast for this example. So the podcast name is going to be the Pet Care Report. So this is my pet care company. We've got the Pet Care Report, and let's pull in all the information we need. So this will be the host, the guest. I'll just use that brand asset for now, which isn't entirely correct. The episode number is going to be 30, and then you would paste the entire transcript in here for this podcast. Now, since the transcript doesn't have timestamps, then the timestamps are not going to be totally accurate. If you wanted more accurate timestamps, then you would actually have to paste in a transcript that included timestamps in it. So we'll click submit. And then once that is now done, then we'll see here we have this to-do option. So I'm just going to delete this other one so we don't get confused. Now we have all of those things added that we need for this automation to run. So what do we need to do now? We need to connect in our make.com automation. So we can come into make.com, into scenarios, choose our folder, and then create a new scenario. I'm going to import the JSON file, and we're going to search for the podcast main assets and then import. Click save. Perfect. So now we have both of our options there. So as always, we'll create a webhook to begin and then click save. Copy the address, and we'll add the address into our Airtable button, and we will add the URL for that particular workflow here and click save. So now that we have that saved in there, we can click run once to pull in the record ID, create main assets. That's been accepted, and the record ID is there. Now we can remap the connection. So reminder, we're always got to make sure we're remapping this correctly. So choosing the base and then making sure you remap the table, because it looks like it's mapping to the right location, but it's not. You need to use the table that's further down in the selections, and then we should be good to go. So it's kept in all of the variables that we need. We need to just check the filters, and it's not mapped in the filter here. So we just need to check the AI models main assets, and I'm just going to copy that for the other side. And the filter is now mapped as well. Then we'll update this Airtable section. Again, making sure we're mapping both the base and the table to the correct places. Here, we're going to our main assets AI status, and we're putting in AI writing dot. Okay, do the same on the other side. All right, now we are at the AI modules. So we'll add our connection, and then we'll double check that everything is mapped correctly. So we've got our system prompt up here with the brand voice and the excluded words. And then we've got our user prompt here that includes the title of the podcast name, the priming transcript, the host name, and the guest name. And then we've got our instruction here, which is number 1, create an introduction. Number 2, create 3 key takeaways for the podcast. And then number 3, add a conclusion. Then we want to then collect the resources and notes in the second section. So again, we're putting in the transcript, and then we're asking it to find the top 10 timestamps for this particular workflow. Like I said, though, because there's no timing in the transcript that I provided, then it's not going to be entirely accurate. So you might want to ensure you upload one with more accuracy and timings. Step 2, we're asking it to find the top 5 quotes by the guest speaker and adding that to the output. And then step 3, we're asking it to provide any mention of notable resources like websites, books, social media handles, and so forth. Then we're now asking it to update the Airtable again, and we need to make sure we're mapping it to the right spot. So we'll go into mapping the base, redo the table to make sure it's in the right version of the podcast production, And then we want to map both of those AI modules into this particular section. So here we're getting the summary, which is going to be the summary outline, which is the second one from the top. And then we'll add that in there. And then we also want to get the AI timestamps, which is the top one here, the resources, notes, and quotes. So both of those have been mapped in there now. Then we just need to do the same on the other side for our Claude option. And it's basically all of the same stuff. And mapping in the outline. And then the notes and resources. And the one that I actually forgot was changing the status. So now we can just do AI complete, and we'll do that for the top one as well. And then this workflow is done. Clicking OK, and then we'll save that and we'll do a test. So we'll go run once. We'll go create main assets. You can see it's running through here, and it's actually running through Claude this time. And we can see that has run successfully. So let's check. So we've got here the outline. Here we go, expand product. So we've got all of that there. So I'm just going to copy all of that. And then we've got our timestamps. We've got guest speaker quotes, and we've got our notable resources mentioned. So then I have a human edited podcast summary section. So I like to add that in there. And then I like to grab this section and I'll add this before the conclusion. So remember, we've got the intro, we've got then the 1, 2, and 3 key takeaways, and then we've got the outro or the conclusion there. So I'll add this section in here, and then you want to go through and just make any edits that you need to in this particular section. So for example, this would be a H2. So I'd remove this and make this a H2 as well. And I would remove this and make this a H2. So then once the resources come through, you would then want to check the URLs. It's saying Earthbiter YouTube channel, but then it's not giving the URL. So you want to go off and find the YouTube URL and then put that in there. And then same as the ahvma.org. Actually, I got that correct. The next step would then be to go through, read all of this, and just make any edits that you see fit so that you have the final version exactly how you want it. Now, reminder, if you're not adding in the timestamps, then these are going to be totally wrong. So you'd want to go through and double check all of these as well. But that's basically the main assets of the summary of podcasts. There's actually SaaS tools out there that are charging $39 to $99 a month to do pretty much exactly what this workflow does for less than $1. So once you have this workflow set up, you can save so much time, effort, and money. Next, like I said, we would then set up the YouTube assets, but it's set up pretty much exactly like the other version, except we're just referencing the different variables at the start, which you'll easily see in that workflow. So I'm not going to set that one up. The promo emails is also quite easy to do, and it's created just like the first version that I showed you. And you would just make sure you map the output into your all promo emails tab, and then that one's done. You'll also see the template inside the AI modules as well of how I structure the promotional email template. It's based on what has worked best for us. However, feel free to change that as you go as well. Then the final one here is the social posts. And I'm going to add this one in again, like I told you, so you can understand the slight difference in this particular workflow to the other workflow. It's quite easy to do, so I'm going to run through it fairly quickly. So once you've imported your JSON file, you'll now come into the automation, and we're just going to set this up as we always do, creating the webhook. Then once that's ready, we'll go run once and we'll give it a test. It's been accepted, and there it is there. Then we'll just map our first section again. And click OK. Then we'll double check the variables are still in there correctly, which they are. And the one important one here is the input brief. So this is how we choose the social templates, is from the text rollup and the input brief. Next, check that our filters are going to work correctly. So we just need to make sure we have the right social model selected. AI model social posts, and then I'll copy that for the other side. And then we'll set up our Airtable account here to make sure we put in AI writing, so we know that it's actually working in the background. So now that we have all of that done, now it goes through a second router. And the reason why is because the first router is just like any of the other social post templates that we've set up, which works fine. I'm not going to go through any of that because we know how to set that up. But the second part is to create a social post for the actual expert. I found it's easier to add this into your current workflow rather than into the All Social Post tab, because in the All Social Post tab, it could get mixed up as being a social post for the brand or for your brand. Whereas if we put it into the workflow itself, then it's easy to distinguish that, okay, we need to send this to the expert themselves. And we can easily do that by creating your connection. And then we're just saying you're an expert content writer, and then referencing the priming transcript or the podcast transcripts. We're adding in our brand voice and excluded words. And then we're saying, this is the podcast name. These are the key takeaways. And then we're saying, create a short, clear and concise social media post to share that you will be a speaker on the upcoming podcasts and what your episode will be about. Tell them they can find the podcast on their favorite podcasting channel and click OK. So that will then get mapped back into Airtable. So the output from that particular AI module is going to come back into AI guest social media posts. So we just need to map that in there. And then we need to finish off and say our status is now AI complete. And we need to then just do the social post created and click yes for this particular module as well. So now that we have all of that created, let's give it a test, and so that we can see how this is going to operate. And I'll show you one little step that you could actually add in as well. So I'm going to choose ChatGPT for this time, and we're just going to do a topic goals, and we're going to go create social posts. So we can see the AI is writing. First, it's going to run up through our social post template iterator. So whether you've got one post in there or 85 will determine how long this particular one is going to take. Then once that's done, it will feed it into our all social posts, and then we have an error. So let's double check what that error is. So because we're providing the transcript, we actually need to use GPT-4 Turbo. So my mistake there. If you have any issues, just change it to Turbo, because we're actually sending in the transcript. And we may not need to do that. Like there's possibility that we could just reference the summary, which I'm actually going to do, because I don't think we need this first step. So what I'm saying now is that this is some context. And then I'm just saying reference the podcast name and the key takeaways, which is written in the podcast summary, and then create the social post from that. So let's try again. And for this test, I'm actually just going to disable that top route. And so it just runs through this particular route, and we'll go create social posts. Now, as you can see, it's skipped that top route because we already know that works, and it's just going to run through this one. So it's created that, and it's sent it back into our Airtable. So this is now written from the perspective of the guest, and it mentions everything that you need to know right there. Now, the one extra thing that you could add in here, and I would leave this up to you, is you could add in a button that picks up the email address of the guests. You would have to interlink your guests or add a different tab in the onboarding form for the guest's email address. And then you can link out to make.com to an email module that says, email this guest with the podcast name, the date that it's going to be published, the guest social media post, and you can write in any other message that you want to into that email as well. So that when it comes time to tell the guest that the podcast is now live, you just need to hit one button and it will send all the information that the guest needs. So that's just one way that you can build on top of what we've got here. And the next workflow that we're going to build out now is for virtual summits. Virtual summits is not going to be for everybody, but if you have put together a virtual summit, you'll know how monotonous creating all of the different content for every single speaker can be. That's why this workflow saves my team so much time every single month, because we're pretty much always working on a virtual summit. So let's dive into how this workflow operates and then how we can actually set it up. So first, as always, we've got our main key points before we get to the first automation, which is brand asset, which I'm just going to add in this one here. And I'm going to complete these as I go this time. So the summit name, let's just call it the Holistic Dog Care Summit. This is one that I'm going to give you as an example. It's one that we've been currently working on. The host name can go in here, and then the guest name can go in here. And don't forget that, again, if you're confused with what particular workflows we need for the first operation to start, then you can come across into interfaces and go to these forms and create forms if you're doing it yourself with the specific information that you need for each one. So you would, for this particular one, which we would need is the title of the summit talk, the summit name, brand asset, host name, guest name, and then the full transcript here. And then we can come back into the data. So the title of this one is going to be called 30 Years Perspective on Whole Food. And then we're going to paste the entire transcript here. Now, again, we've got our pre-AI and our AI Claude, and what this is going to create is a summary outline. So we basically call these like a cliff notes. So we're doing the same type of workflow as a blog post where it's creating an outline first and then creating a summary. And the cliff notes are like an extra bonus that we add into the premium pass offer to make that offer more valuable, because some people do enjoy reading. So we want to make sure we're giving them that information as well. The other thing that we create here are 3 bullet points. Actually, in the prompt, I create 5 bullet points and we choose 3 from the 5. And the reason for that is because when we're promoting the summit on the actual registration page and the pages for the schedule and so forth, we put these 3 bullet points on that page in order to get people curious about the summit. The other one that we create here is a quiz. So we'll ask 5 questions about this particular talk. And the reason why we do that is because we're looking at creating CEU points for our premium pass holders, which means if they got a CEU points, which is their continuing education credits, then they actually need to complete a quiz to say that what they are watching, they have learned and they know the information. So you have to provide a quiz. So AI can do that as well, which is amazing, saves so much time, and it's such an easy addition then to add into your offers. Then we have a promo email. So this promo email will be written individually for each of these speakers. So what used to happen in virtual summits is you would create swipe copy that is general in nature, and every single affiliate, every single speaker of that summit get that to promote it to their audience. But with AI, since it's so easy, we now create individualized and personalized emails for each of our guest speakers so that when they send it to their audience, every single email is slightly different. It talks about their particular talk first, and then it talks about the summit general in nature, which the idea of doing that is to make it more relatable to their audience and then hopefully increase conversion rates so that they can send more traffic to the summit and make the event more successful. Then, of course, we've got our social posts. So again, we can turn our speaker content into educational posts for our own platform. And then, of course, if you want to create anything else, then you can add them at the end as well. So the first thing to create is the main summary post. So let's dive into that one now. So come across into Make, we create our new scenario, and then we're looking to import the summit main assets JSON file. Once we've imported that, then we'll click Save and we'll begin doing this workflow. So as you can see, it looks very similar to the blog post version. However, at the end here, we've got our bullet points and our quiz modules instead of looking up facts and so forth, because the idea is hopefully the speakers are coming into the talk with facts and with references for what they're claiming. So the AI will just be able to pick up the claims and stuff that they're actually talking about. So let's just start from the beginning as always, and we're going to start with our webhook, CRS, Summit, main, and then we'll click Save. Copy that to the address board, click OK, unlink that, and then add that link into our trigger. And let's add our URL of make.com into our description and click Save. From here, we now give it a test to pull in the record ID. That has been accepted, and there is the record ID there. So let's now reconfigure this first Airtable module. And remembering when we're selecting the table, we're selecting the summits down further. The top one won't be correct. Then we're just checking our variables are set and they all look good here. Then we are checking that our model is selected. So AI model main summary. So we just need to go our AI models summary trigger. It was named slightly differently, so that's why it didn't work. But anyway, we just need to copy that and we'll highlight that for the other side. And we'll add that one in there as well. Then we set our Airtable. So this one is just to set the Airtable to say that the AI is writing. So we just need to remap our Airtable and our base and our table. And then we scroll down to where it says summary writing progress and we go AI writing dot. Copy that for the other side and we'll set the other side. And then summary writing progress, AI writing dot. Cool. Now to the AI modules. So we'll set the connection and double check that all of the information is mapped correctly, which it is. So we just need to hit OK. But basically it's the same process as the blog, which is it's creating an outline first. So that means we then need to put that outline back into Airtable so that we can reference it in future if we do wish. So once we've mapped the base in the table, then we come down to AI summary outline, and then we put in our AI output into that section there and click OK. The next one should have the output in the right section for the input brief. Then we check that the input brief formula is mapped correctly, which it is. Then we're checking that the filter is mapped correctly, which it is. And then we're adding in our next AI account and checking that all of the different variables are mapped in there as well, which it is. So we can click OK. Next is going to set the section text for each of those outputs, and it's going to send 25% of those up through this filter and into this AI module to split up the text writing. And then it's going to set the section text again. Then it's going to pull all the section text together, aggregate it into the one output, and then send that output back into our Airtable account. So this is going to be our AI blog final. So we just need to remap all of this into Airtable again. So we come down to our AI summary final output, and then we put in the aggregator text variable there. Next are our 3 bullet points. So what this should do now is reference that final summary output, which it does. And then also for the quiz, which should reference the same thing. And we've actually got 2 different variables in there. So we're saying reference, okay, so it's saying reference the transcript, and then this one is actually referencing the output. The transcript would be best to reference for the bullet points. So that is actually correct. So we'll click OK. And then we want to send that back into Airtable and close off our workflow. So to do that, we remap the base and the table. Then once we've remapped that, we come down to our AI 3 bullet points, and then we put our output bundle into there, and then we do the quiz output into the quiz section. And then we go back to our summary writing progress and we go AI complete. Click OK. Now that's going to be the same as this one down here besides the different output bundles. So I'm just going to map these 2 first. And then I'm just going to clone that final version there, and we're going to change the 2 mappings to Claude. So the 3 bullet points is this one, and then the AI quiz is this one. And then we've already got our AI complete in there. You would now just do the same for Claude, which I'm not going to record, but once we've done that, we can save it and do a test. Perfect. So it's saved, which means everything's working as it should. Now let's give it a run once and test that this is going to operate. So we come back into our Airtable. We're going to run this on ChatGPT, and then we're going to go create summary. It's been accepted. AI is writing, and let's have a look at the automation. It seems to be running through the outline first, which it's now done. Send that back into Airtable. Now it should run through our section prompts a whole bunch of times. So if we have a look at our outline, then we've got the introduction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections. So it should run through there 8 times. It should then send off 2 different versions into the 25% filter, and then it'll send back the final output here and then move on to the final 2 boxes here. So it's created our final summary here, and it's moved through each of those outline sections that we outlined in the first step. It's changed up the post to include some extra headings and bullet points to split up how they're writing. So overall, I think that's a pretty good job. That's based on this, it's probably the best article I've seen it write so far. So again, as these models improve, these particular workflows just continue to get better and better. So what should happen now is our 3 bullet points, or our 5 bullet points, which we would choose 3 of these 3 bullet points from the 5, and the AI quiz. So the output that it's giving us is the question, 4 potential answers, and then the correct answer, which is pretty cool as well. So that's the first part of the AI workflow, checking that we've also now changed this to AI complete, which it has. So now we can move on to the next section, which is our promo emails. So this works largely like the others, but in fact, it's probably a little bit more simple. So I will give a quick demonstration of this, but overall, I think you'll be able to move through this part fairly quickly. So we'll come into our make.com again, and we'll go to our new scenario, and we're looking for our summit promo, and then we'll click save. So as always, we'll start with our webhook, and then we'll save that webhook into our dashboard, save the make.com into our dashboard, and then click save. We'll give it a run once, pulls in the record ID, and then we'll connect our Airtable account. Click OK, give it a save. We'll give it one more run once to pull in all the information that we need. And it's worked correctly. So now we'll begin to map everything. So checking that all of the variables are set, which they are. And let's make sure our filter is set, which it's not. So we can actually add in the promo emails, AI models. We'll give that a copy for the other side. Click OK. Add the filter in here as well. And click OK. Next, map in our Airtable module. And then we'll change the status for the promo emails to, so promo email AI status, AI writing dot, and we'll click OK. Do the same for the other side and click OK. Now we're up to the AI modules. So we'll add in the connection and then we'll check. Basically, we're saying, here's all the context of the things you need, the transcript, brand voice, excluded words, and so forth. And then we're saying, you're an expert copywriter. Here's the step to follow. And we're saying email template. So the email template was actually hidden in the dashboard. So if you ever find that it's referencing something that you can't find, just go to these hidden fields here. And what I realized is that it was actually hiding the promo email prompt templates. And this one, we actually just want to choose the Summit Affiliate Promo Email template. So that's going to be the right one there. And we come back into our dashboard. So now it's actually choosing the right thing. So it's choosing the email template, which is what we set back here. So if we go down to our email template, it's got the packaged email template roll up there. And that's what we're using in the AI. Then, so we're saying, here's a template to follow, reference the summit name, bullet points, and transcript, and then create the subject line, join me at the summit name. So we'll click OK, and then we just need to map that back into Airtable. So let's just clone this old one, and we should just be able to then change a few fields. So we come down to here and we'll change this to AI complete. And then we will map in the promo email into AI affiliate promo email. And then we'll click OK. Since we've done that, we can just delete that module. We can delete this second one here as well. And we can clone this across to there. And then we can create our connection for Claude. And everything should be mapped in there nicely. And then we just need to change our Claude mapping and we're good to go. So we'll save that, add the Claude mapping into here, and then click save. So the scenario has been saved, which to me says it should work. Let's give it a run once. So we're going to change this to ChatGPT. Basically, we're saying use this affiliate promo email template, which is introduce the summit, talk about your 3 key takeaways, talk about how you're excited, and then provide a call to action for them to sign up. So let's create this promo email. We've got an error. Insufficient writing. Okay, so this actually happened to me the other day where it's saying that there's an insufficient field in here. So AI writing dot should be correct, but if it's not, then what you'll find is that there's a mismatch in this field here. So yeah, what we actually missed is dot here. And now, so basically what it's saying is make.com is not allowed to add a new setting here, AI writing. It has to match exactly of what's already in there. So we just need to make sure that's dot. And if we hit click save and then run once again, it should now run. So there we go. It's gone through that module, it's writing the email, and it should send the email back into here in just a moment. Let's expand that record and wait for it. And here it is here. So join me at the Holistic Dog Care Summit. Hey there, I'm buzzing with excitement, blah, blah, blah. In my talk, this is what we cover. 3 things. I'm not the only one. So you ready? Call to action. The only other thing I would potentially add into here would be like the dates and so forth if it is a launch, but it's up to you to make that template work for you and your business and your promotions and so forth. So that's the Summit workflow. The only other thing to do is connect your social posts. And this would be a really good one to connect social posts for, because one of the biggest challenges I see people have that are buying this particular template is that they need more ideas to come up with. Whereas if you're interviewing people, they're creating the ideas for you, and then you can reference their transcripts, use them for your social media educational posts as well. Now, of course, if there's any IP that particular person owns, you would definitely want to reference them and credit them for that particular work. But if it's more general stuff, then you could absolutely use it for your social posts as well. So since we've gone through social posts before, I'm not going to go through it on this particular workflow. So let's keep moving forward. Okay, now we move to the general content workflow, and this one can be left to your imagination of what you want to use it for. For example, the reason why I built this initially was for one of my friends who has a book. And I thought what he could do is put in a chapter of his book and then turn it into a newsletter from that particular chapter and make it more educational, and then turn it into a whole bunch of social media posts as well. I think that would be a really great use case. The other way to do it, and this is the way that I'm going to show you in this particular video, is we can come into our Ideas Improver tab and take one of those ideas that we've improved and then put it through the General Content tab and build it into a newsletter and more social posts and so forth. So that's what we're going to do here. So I'm taking this newsletter idea where I talk about how sometimes automating too soon is actually the wrong thing to do. And it gave me this output here. So the output built it into more of an argument. I selected the school essay prompt for my idea. So it really built it into a pretty detailed idea. And almost the essay itself is almost like a newsletter, but I do have a specific way that I like to write newsletters, and we've got that in the general content prompt. So for this one, we're going to select our brand asset, and we're going to put our transcript or content name in here, which is why automating with AI is not always the best step. And then we'll put in our thesis, our school writing thesis here. And we want to turn this now into a content newsletter. So in order to do this, we have basically the same thing where we're choosing the prompt. The prompt is here. Then we're going to run it through our AI automation. So to do that, we come back into make.com and click create a new scenario. Then we need to import our general email flow and then click save. Here, we'll begin by creating our webhook. Click save, copy that to the clipboard, and then come up and change our Airtable. Next, we'll save the make.com URL into our description and then click save in Airtable. So now we'll run it once and give it a test. Been accepted and the information is there. So first we'll map the first Airtable and click OK. Then we'll check that the variables are being mapped in. So we've got an input brief with the email prompts. We've got the email type. We've got the general transcript. We've got the transcript name, brand voice, excluded words, and writing level. Next, we will check that our filters are set up correctly. And it looks like we just need to change that to AI models promo email. Click OK. And we'll change that one as well. And we'll set up this module here. As we've got that set up, we then want to change the status. So the promo email writing status, we're going to go AI writing dot, and we'll click OK. Then we'll set up the other side. All right. So then the iterator is saying, take that input brief and then split it by a new line in order to run through all of the different email prompts that we've selected. Then we add it into our ChatGPT module. For this, because we're potentially sending in big chapters or big transcripts, then we use a GPT-4 Turbo, and then all of the prompts should be getting mapped. So we're just sending all the information that we need, and then we're saying complete the template. Next, we then have the email type variable, which is, it's getting the variable that we got back there. And then we're going to create this into our all promo emails tab, and we're going to add in the category email type variable there as well. So we just need to remap the Airtable and then remap each of the variables again. So here we just need to select map for the brand assets, and then we come across to our brand assets in the first tab here. Category is the email type that I talked about. And then the AI final email content is the AI output there. So the message and content. So we'll click OK. Next, then we want to create subject lines or headlines for that particular email. So for this one, we just need GPT-4. We've got the training data up the top here. Then we're saying, here's the output that we've just got from the AI. Now I want you to create 20 different headlines for this particular post. Then we just need to send this back into the all promo emails. And this one is an update record, so we can't clone the previous version. We just need to remap the base again, and then just add in the record ID. So all promo emails, and then the record ID is going to be from the previous Airtable module, and we're going to use the record ID from there. So we're updating the record that we just created in the all promo emails tab. So we just need to grab that, and then we need to go down to our subject lines, and then we need to add our output from the AI into the subject lines. So we can click OK. And then this one can actually be duplicated because it's basically just closing off the workflow. And we can change this to AI complete. Perfect. So that would be all we need to do. I'll just set up the Claude version, then we'll give it a test. So Claude is set up, it is now saved. So let's give it a run once and test if this is going to work. So we've got here, we're going to run it through ChatGPT. And basically what we're saying is, here's our content name. Here's the content that we want you to turn into the content to newsletter. Follow this prompt here. The model that we're going to use is ChatGPT, and that's create promo email. As we can see, it's now writing, which means it should be running through the automation. And I have noticed that we've actually missed a step. We actually need to create this checkbox, but we'll wait until the promo email gets created. Then it should send it into the promo email section, which it does. So we've got the newsletter for big moves. Here is the output here. So it's followed the template that I've given it and the information that I've given it. Now it should be writing the email subject line, and it's sent that back in there. So now we've got 20 different subject lines that we can choose from, and we can add one across into our email preview text and finish off this workflow and then approve it once it's ready to go and send it to our team. Now, like I said, I forgot to add the checkbox completion in the final module here for Airtable. So we just need to go through and update this, which is the promo email completed. Yes. And we'll add that for both workflows. And click save. So that one is now done. And then in the general content, the final one to finish off and for this particular workflow would be the create social posts. Again, because I've done that before, it's the exact same process, so I'm not going to go through it. This video, we're going to be talking about how you can take an idea you have and then improving on that idea to create content like newsletters, blog posts, YouTube videos, and podcasts. And the reason why I'm excited about this particular workflow is because it's been my most requested workflow from everybody that I talk to who wants to use this particular dashboard, which is how can we create better ideas or improve upon our ideas so that we can get our content creation started. Now, I'd encourage you to check a previous newsletter that I wrote called The Content Hierarchy, or if you'd prefer to watch it on YouTube, then I actually have a video about the content hierarchy as well, which is called AI Automation for the Content Hierarchy. But basically the way that it works is this. For you as the entrepreneur or the content creator, you typically want to focus your time where it is your highest and best use. So this is at the top of the pyramid, which is like what I would call the long form content. So things like podcasts, newsletters, and YouTube videos are going to be your highest and best use of time. There are a number of reasons why, and I'm not going to go into detail on this, but one of the reasons is that people will want to consume long form content from you before they purchase. There's a rule that Google came up with many years ago called the 7-11-4 rule, which is people want to see a number of different pieces of content on a number of different platforms, and definitely some long form content as well. Now, there is a minor exception to that these days where short form content can get you over the line in many cases. But focusing entirely on short form content and not doing any long form content, I think would be a big mistake. So my approach is I start at the top first. That's why I do a lot of YouTube videos. And then what we can actually do with the AI automation, and this is why I built this entire AI workflow, is that it can take the long form content I'm creating at the top, which is perceived to be much higher quality. It's much more valuable. And then everything else from your mini clips and your snippets from that video to reels and shorts to also your text and social image posts can actually be repurposed using my system, my content repurposing system, by a virtual assistant, somebody that you're paying $5 to $10 an hour to do all of the other platforms and ensuring that the quality is still high. So I'd encourage you to go read more about that or watch more about that if you do want to learn about it. But we can still take our ideas and turn them into better responses as well. So if you are using the 1.2 version or above for the content repurposing system, this will already be built into your particular workflow. If not, then here is the instruction on how we're going to rebuild the Airtable again. And then I'm going to show you how to connect make.com. So I've already built it into my client's version because that's how it came up. Basically, now we want to replicate this into my own version. So I'm over here in my base now, and the first thing I'm going to do is just import 2 tables into this particular template, and then we need to reconfigure a couple of things. So if you're in the membership, then you'll have a link to this, and I'll send you an email about it as well. But once you open that link, then you should see something like this, and then you just click use this data. Then it'll ask you what workspace that you want to add that into, and then what base you want to add that into. Once you've selected your particular base that you're working in, then you would click create. And here we need to do a little bit of changing over. So basically just taking all of the raw data. It hasn't taken in any of our more advanced data. So the first thing is the template name. That one's fine. The template here is also fine. You could also add as many templates as you wish. So if you have more prompts that you use, then you would add these prompts into here so you can reference them in the workflow. So this third column here is not correct. It shouldn't be long text. It should actually be a formula. So we're going to change that to a formula. And then the formula is this. So we've got the 2 hashtags at the start in the quotation marks and ideas prompt templates, which is referencing this particular column here. And then we've got the and sign again, and then 2 spaces. So the reason why we do that is because in the automation, it picks up the 2 hashtags at the start and 2 spaces at the end, or it's basically like 2 new lines. And then we click save, and it will look pretty much the same, but it will be now structured in the right way for our automation. This Ideas Improver tab here can just be hidden. We don't actually need that. So you can go through and you can look at these prompts here, and then you can also add your own prompt. A quick little hack is that on ChatGPT itself, if you're paying for the premium version, you can go into the GPT library and use one of the GPTs to help you build your own prompts based on the ideas that you have. Next, then we just want to add in our second base template that we need to add in, and we'll go use this data and we'll add it into the same workspace and the same base, and then click create table. So also don't forget to name your tables as well. So we're just going to rename this to ideas templates, call it actually ideas generator templates. And then we're going to call this Ideas Improver. And we'll click save. Now the Ideas Improver is probably going to make more sense to be at the start of your workflow. So I'm going to drag that all the way across to the start. Next is we actually want to now fix up some of these columns. The first one should actually be a formula. So the formula that we're going to grab is I've already created in this other one. And we're going to change from long text to a formula and paste in this formula here, which is the content create column and in quotation marks idea for and brand assets. When we click save, then that will convert this into a formula, and you'll see now that it's a newsletter idea for the Big Moves brand. This brand assets needs to be a linked record. So we'll link this to the brand assets and click save. Confirm that change. And when we add that particular one, we want to add some lookup fields because that's what's going to get referenced in our particular make.com workflows. So we want to reference the brand voice guidelines, the excluded words and phrases, and then the writing grade level, and then click add 3 fields. Now we don't need to see these in the workflow, so we can just highlight these and go hide fields, and we'll still be able to see them in make.com, but we won't see them in Airtable, which is totally fine. The next one is our type of content that we're going to create with the idea that we have. And like I said, I've put in YouTube video, newsletter, blog post, and podcast. This is what will get referenced in the actual prompt, which I'll show you coming up soon. So you'd want to choose one of these. If you want to add other things in there, you can just add that option and it will also add it into the prompt. Next is our idea section. So I left my idea in here and you would just come in and this is where you would write your personal ideas. So how do you collect ideas? I actually have a newsletter that I wrote at the very start of when I was getting started about this program called Feedly, where you could connect in, you could monitor other people's feeds. So you could generate a whole bunch of ideas from that. If you want to check that out, then subscribe to my newsletter, send me an email and I'll send you that link if you can't find it on my website. The other way that you could do that is if just as you're scrolling throughout the day, maybe you come across an idea that you want to jot down for later, then you could actually create yourself a form for this particular interface. So let's create one of those now. We're just going to go into interfaces and go to ideas improver, and we're going to create a form. So this will be a new idea improver. And here we want to add in, we need our brand asset and the different content to create. So the content to create is that one and the brand asset, our idea. So you could add your idea in there and then you can choose your prompt. We don't need the roll up in here, and choose your AI model. And then we could just delete some of these other ones. So as you're going throughout the day, you could save this form on a page somewhere where it's easy for you to get access to, and then just put in those ideas as you're going through your day. So remember, if you are creating a form, then it's good to select all of the required sections in the form itself, so that when you do submit it, then you're providing everything that you need to. So I'm actually just going to rearrange this a little bit. So basically, so we're going to say that is type of content to create from the idea. What template do you want to use? Add your brand asset. Write a description of your idea here. And then what AI model will you use, which will be ChatGPT or Claude. So once you're happy with your form, you can publish that form, and then you can have that link saved wherever you wish so that you can access it on the go. So now as we move across to the next one, then we want to change this particular ideas template prompts and link this record to our ideas generator templates. The reason why we're doing that is because then we can add all of our templates available, and just add all of our templates into a different workflow that you can choose from moving forward. So we will then confirm that change. So we're doing this one slightly different to the social media prompts and the email prompts, where it will concatenate all of the different values where you can add multiple prompts. For the idea generator, the way that I'm building it is I'm building it so that it comes back into the same dashboard, which means we can only do one prompt at a time or one template at a time. So in order to do that, then we can simply use a lookup field to find the correct value that we need for the actual prompt itself. So we can just add this formula version here as a lookup. Now, typically we would add it as a roll up and then we would concatenate the values, but we just need a lookup in this particular circumstance. So since we've got that there, we can just delete that next field. Here we've got our two models and we've got our status generator, and we'll change that to pre-AI once the new status comes in. Here we want to change this to a button. So we'll go button, and then we'll go improve idea. Style would be a purple button, and then we'll add the concatenate formula that we will fix up with make.com and click save. All right. Then we've got the output. So this is where we're going to send the output back into Airtable so that we have it. So I'm just going to delete that output for now, and we'll try this again. So now we just need to go into our make.com and create new scenario. From there, we'll import our blueprint that we're looking for, which is the CRS ideas improver, and click save. From here, we'll just go through our normal setup, which is add the webhook and click OK. And I'm just going to run that once while I'm in there. And then we'll add our webhook URL into here and click save. So that should be running once in the background. So if I click this, it says accepted, and we've got that record ID there now. So we'll just unlink the next one, and then we'll map our Airtable into our new account. And then we'll select our Ideas Improver tab and click OK. Next, we'll connect our tools and check that all of the variables are still correct, which they are. Then we'll set up our filters, check that our filters are correct. Okay, and then remap to our Airtable again. And this one is to say that the AI is writing. So we'll come down to our AI status and we'll go AI writing dot. And we'll do the same on the other workflow. And we'll click OK. Then we'll add in our connection for the AI modules. And here we're using GPT-4. We're saying, this is the brand voice, excluded words and writing grade level. I want you to help expand on my idea about, and then the idea. We actually need to add in this idea will become a content type. So it will become a YouTube video, become a podcast episode, blah, blah, blah. Here is the idea. And so we're asking it to expand on that. And then we'll click OK. And then since we're updating a record, we can just delete this, clone this module, and then we'll go down to where it says AI writing, and we'll say AI complete. And then we'll map our output into this section here. Now we just need to do that for Claude as well. And I'm just going to grab the message again and click OK. And then we'll map in the Claude into the right spot and click OK. So I'll just save that one, and it's saved, which means it should now test correctly. Let's go run once. We'll come across into our dashboard. So we've got the brand assets is actually going to, let's call it Mitch Asa. So we just need, make sure you just add one in there. It's going to become a newsletter content. It's going to, this is my idea. I'm actually going to change this, and let's use the newsletter idea generator. And we're going to use ChatGPT. This should be pre-AI. And we're going to now improve idea. So that's been accepted. AI is writing. It's going through the AI module and send that back into Airtable. So let's have a look at what it's written. And that's the prompt there. So it's turned it into a more detailed response. And again, like I said, the whole idea here is for you to add in as many of these different prompts for enhancing your ideas as you wish. So you might have your own, you might want to develop your own. Like I said, you can use GPTs on the ChatGPT platform to help develop different prompts and build out those particular ideas for you. Then you can take those built out ideas and you can run them through any of these other platforms to help you create more content much faster. So that's it for this particular workflow. I'd love to hear in the comments any further ideas and templates that you are using to help build out the ideas you have for your content creation as well.